Buffs Nation, what's going on? Hope you guys are having a great day. I'm back here again, this time with my good friend Bird. Thank you again for joining. Really appreciate it as always. Before I get started, really quick, wanting to give a quick shout out to Martez from Yo Martez. Use that promo code SCOBUS for 10% off the entire store. Links in the description. Chilling here in my living room. Wi-Fi signal hasn't been great, so hopefully we have a good show being right next to the router. But Bird, how are you doing, man?
All is well, man. Can't complain. Definitely glad to be back, man. I appreciate you always.
Absolutely. And man, we got a lot of interesting things to talk about. Of course, Arizona State, but some interesting news today. Tez Walker, which was one of the most talked about uh, eligibility and transfer denials, I guess, by the
Yep.
NCAA. NCAA has kind of walked back on that, now giving him immediate eligibility. Man, what are your whole thoughts on all this? And might we see Tyler Brown here shortly soon as well?
I'm definitely happy for the Tez kid, man. Of course, you want everybody to be able to play, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
the situation he had going on, man, it seemed like it was a long battle with the NCAA. I'm glad it was kind of able to get resolved. Now he'll still have a decent amount of a season for him to be able to play. I'm thinking it may possibly open the window for Tyler Brown. I mean, he has another similar type of situation where I feel like he's definitely should be rewarded with his immediate eligibility. So I'm hoping that we can keep pushing for Tyler Brown. Maybe this will also open up the door for him again, and it'll be if so, it'll be a much needed boost that we'll be able to get if we can get Tyler Brown back.
It would be huge because, I mean, yeah, he's a big guy, obviously, like 6'3", over 310 pounds. He would be a
Yep.
huge addition to this offensive line. And just even looking at what he's accomplished, at Jackson State, HBCU All-American,
Yep.
FCS All-American. This is a guy that, he came in here with the intention to start. And, I think we were counting on him to start. So it would be massive if we can have him, through the rest of the season. I would say, I guess with Tez's situation, it's a little bit different, with the details. Basically, like his kind of argument was, hey, I went to North Carolina Central
Hmm.
and then COVID hit and I never played. And then I transferred to Kent State or, whatever.
Yep.
So he's like, I got a free transfer from that. So this should be my first transfer, going from Kent State to North Carolina. And then he
Right.
got, his grandma's terminally ill, all that, factoring in, she should be able to see him play.
Right.
Um, with Tyler Brown, I mean, to me, I think there's enough similarity there where the NCAA just needs to approach these things, I think, with just some logic and some compassion, obviously, because if you have a coach, nonetheless your position coach die, I
Right.
nonetheless die on the practice field. I
Right.
think that totally warrants having an extra transfer. And his argument is like, hey, I used that transfer from Louisiana Lafayette, if I remember correctly, to get to Jackson State. So this should be my first transfer coming out here to see you. Any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I feel the same way because I mean that's something devastating. Of course, when you look at where we are right now in 2023, when it comes to mental health, I mean that is really really taxing on someone's mental, especially a young man who, like you said, that's your position coach. That's the coach that you're working with every day, and to see that happen, I mean, that can be traumatizing for a young man. And I'm right there with you. I feel like the NCAA should definitely take that into consideration and look and say, hey man, like this kid really went through something traumatic, and it really was detrimental to his mental. And I feel like it's something that we should be able to open the door for him to be able to use technically his one-time transfer going from Jackson State to CU.
Yeah, no doubt. And I heard somebody reading the statement that the NCAA put out today, and it was just so funny. They're like, well, if North Carolina didn't make this such a big deal in the media and just provided us with the right amount of info, then we would have changed our. I don't understand what additional info there would need to be when
Right.
you already know the man's story. Same with Tyler Brown. This is an opportunity, man, for the NCAA to just gain some decent respect back, but it seems like they're always making these decisions that continually just have people hating them. Man,
Sure.
we need to see Tyler Brown, man, on this team. If we're slotting him in at left guard, that's probably a 30 to 40 pound, even if you're just looking at size, like addition to the offensive line, man. He would be absolutely huge.
Absolutely, and he's been the strongest guy on the team in the weight room since he got there. I mean, that's it's not like you're just rolling out somebody that's just going to be able to kind of just step in and not really do anything. I mean, you're talking about adding the strongest guy on the team back in his starting lineup when it comes to the offensive line. I mean, it'll be massive, especially in the run game, because I mean he's a damn good run blocker.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's go ahead and get into, I guess, this ASU preview. We haven't talked, since we were previewing USC, but I guess before we dive into ASU, what were your thoughts on the game? Positives that the Buffs can take going into this week.
Absolutely. Of course, first, Omarion Miller. I mean, that young man, if you can't stop, if you get one legit positive, I mean, 7 catches with a $196 and a touchdown all in the second half. I mean, I'm glad we were able to finally see him and allow him to showcase his ability. Of course, same thing with Cormani McClain. He played well also, going up against Brendan Rice. I mean, you can see the confidence. You can see the 5-star ability. It showed without question.
Yeah.
I mean, he's legit. I mean, I really love that. I love the run game. Anthony Hankerson really toted the football. Shedeur as well, too. I like the way Shedeur was able to use his legs a little bit more. This is the most we've seen him run all season. So I love that about the game as well. I love the way that we fought. We never gave back. I mean, we were down, 34-7 at one point, 34-4 at halftime. We come back, we win the second half, 27-14. So, I mean, I love the way that these young men continue to battle. They continue to fight. They didn't give up. And they actually really made this a ball game to the point where, I mean, it got really, really close, for sure. So I love Michael Harrison. He scored another touchdown. I think that's 3 games in a row. He scored a touchdown. I mean, there's some really, really good positives that we can take from this game that we can really build upon. And I think it's going to look really, really good these next few weeks for us.
Yeah, no doubt. I think what's so fun with this team is that we're seeing different people every game. These guys have their moments, step up. And we're just putting it together, man, for a nice run for the second half of the football season here. It's crazy that we're halfway through. It's kind of sad, man. It's been flying by. But man, it was so great, especially after all the talk with Cormani. The speculating, why isn't he out there, or practice, preparation, all the people just trying to assassinate this kid's character, all this stuff, man. It was just so great to see him go out there and play a stellar game, especially, man, for his first game. And same with Omarion, man. He was, some of those catches, man, were just so technical, so impressive. And, credit to him, man, for being on the same page with Shedeur, with not being on the field, really much until this game. I think that takes a lot of work and dedication outside of the games to truly be a next man up.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, he that's an absolute, astonishing performance for him. I mean, he's a 4-star kid. Of course, he had offers from all over the country. So it's not like, it's surprising that he doesn't have the talent, but it was an amazing performance by that young man as a true freshman to step in that moment and be ready when your name is called.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of another true freshman, some other news broke yesterday, or I guess it's kind of been reported throughout the last couple of weeks, that Adam Hopkins, is seeing some time at corner. We got to see him in some of the well-off videos, getting some reps in at corner. What are your initial thoughts on that?
I like it, honestly, because, I mean, he was a dangerous two-way player in high school for sure. I mean, he was legit at corner. I mean, if you pull on his huddle tape, you see he's got a couple pick sixes on that tape. I mean, he's a really good tackler. He separates the receiver from the football. I mean, I like him at DB, honestly. I'm going to be honest with you. When I was watching his tape, when he had first committed, when I was watching his tape, I was like, you know what? I don't know what Coach Prime's going to do with him, but he looks damn good at DB. I knew he wanted to play wide receiver, but, I mean, he's legit at DB, and I actually like it. I actually feel like he can really get on the field a little bit earlier, a little bit sooner at DB, especially now with Travis still being out. I feel like he can, it's a little bit easier for him to get rotated in at DB right now than it is at receiver. Because I mean, we're just so loaded at receiver now. You got to figure out how you're gonna get Omarion Miller on the field even more now too. So I think I like Adam Hopkins playing DB, and I feel like he's gonna get on the field and really make some plays. He's a really aggressive corner, and he can cover as well.
Yeah, yeah. I love it, man, because like you were talking about with his huddle tape, man. I went through that, broke down a little bit of that yesterday, and man, he had some really impressive interceptions,
Yeah.
reading the quarterback's eyes, getting to the right spots on the field, passing passing off guys, jumping certain routes. I mean, he looked really dynamic, specifically as a defensive back, and another 6 foot and above corner for this secondary. And that's something that I love, man. If we just got 6+ guys in the secondary, I mean, that's going to cause so many issues, long term. And I love to see it. Now, there's another player that we speculate might be seeing some time at tight end. Javon Antonio. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually like it. Now, of course, I know some people was talking about this beginning of the season. Maybe he should be moved to tight end. And at first, I was like, he's a receiver. He's a big body wide receiver. He plays at Northwestern State, especially on the outside, especially in the red zone. So I thought he can kind of make that immediate impact when he came. Hasn't really been that, of course. But I really honestly like the transition to tight end. Now, I'm not sure how well he can block. Of course, that's going to be a part of it. You got to, is he going to block or not, right? We already know that he can run routes, that he can get open, he can catch passes. But, I mean, he does have the body of a tight end. You have Coach Brewster, who's a tight end guru. You've seen what he's done with Mikey Harrison. He's pretty much transformed his career. And he was a wide receiver previously first, too. So, I mean, we got the right guy to really lead him and help him as far as, making that transition to tight end. And if he buys into it, because that's another thing too, he's gonna have to buy into. You're gonna have to rock. You're gonna have to block now. You're gonna have to want to block, right? And you're gonna have to want the position. But if he buys into it, he has the right coach that he can really learn from, and I think he can actually make something out of it for sure.
I think so too. It's something that initially I was like, nah, man. Like, I think he's going to be a great wide receiver because he played tight end in high school. He's kind of recruited as a tight end, but I think with Tim Brewster, he's worked with these hybrid players type, before. He's worked with somebody who's like Antonio Gates years and years ago. Helping him get to that next level, not having a ton of football experience previously. Kyle Pitts, one of these, kind of hybrid type tight ends, getting him to have a more complete game, before being drafted, I think is a top 5 pick. And then, like you said, man, Mikey Harrison, this was a guy that wasn't even getting on the field with some of our poor teams the past couple of years. And now he's a starter.
Right.
It just goes to show that if you take to the coaching, you can really develop and go beyond to maybe what you were even thinking for your career. So I'd love to see Javon, put it together at the tight end position, because then I'm starting to think, man, maybe this is when we might see some of these 2 tight end sets that Sean Lewis ran a lot at Kent State last year. There's just a lot of mismatch possibilities. Having Javon go, having to beat a linebacker or a safety compared to some of the outside corners, he might have a little bit more of an advantage there in that part of the field than going up against a cornerback one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I would love to see it, and I love the move. Actually, this is a good move, and this is a good time for it. And I feel like it'll get him on the field a little bit more, and he'll better make some more plays.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's get into this game, man. ASU, they got a lot of guys hurt right now. This is on the road. This is a game that, I don't want us taken lightly, even though they're 1-4, even though they almost lost to Southern Utah. This is the chance that I'm hoping that the Buffs take to play a complete game. But I would love to hear your initial thoughts, hopes, expectations for the matchup this week.
Absolutely. So like you said, we definitely can't take them lightly. Don't even look at the record. I mean, there's no point in looking at the record, right? It's on the road. Of course, it's going to be a hostile environment. At this point, Colorado was a show. So every game that we play on the road, it's going to be a sellout. The fans are going to be going crazy. We can expect that, right? As far as what can I expect, like you said, I'm expecting a complete game. Our first complete game where we're really, really good offensively, defensively, and on special teams as well. Of course, our special teams, we had some blunders, last week against USC, the block punt that took a little while for it to get off. Of course, we had a missed field goal by Jace there. We're waiting for the special teams to really be special each and every week. So I'm hoping that this will be the first week where we actually see a complete game. We actually have a dominant performance against a team that we're just flat out better than. And like you said, they have injuries right now. We have some guys coming back off of injuries, so we're getting healthy. So I would love to see the run game continue to improve, right? We love what we were able to do against USC, so we'd love to see that run game continue to improve. And, we'll love to see Omarion Miller now that everyone knows who you are, right? You're going to get on the field now. Everyone knows who you are. Let's see what you can do once everybody knows that you're one of those guys and you're not a shock anymore, right? Of course, Shedeur Sanders, he's going to handle business. He's going to be who he is. He's going to put the ball where it needs to be. Jimmy Horn's going to continue to play well, I feel like. We'll get a little bit more this week out of Xavier Weaver than we got last week. And I think the defense is going to continue. They're going to continue to turn the ball over. I mean, we're turning the ball over almost weekly at this point. What Cam leads the Pac-12 in interceptions. And I believe we may get a Miles Slusher sighting. I did see him back in practice, and he did not have the contact jersey. So maybe we get a Miles Slusher sighting as well. I'm not sure what they'll do with Shiloh. He's been in the yellow jersey all week. But I feel like, Kermani will play. I feel like this will be a game where we can actually really be dominant and we can win this ball game by multiple scores.
Man, I'm right there with you, and you opened up by talking about how, hey, we're CU. Like, these teams are going to, they're going to bring their best. And, it's important on this road environment, man. We cannot allow them to have any hope, man, going into this game. We have to establish quickly, early on, that we're the better team, that we're here to kick butt. And, we're not messing around. Anton coming in here saying, it's going to be hot. It's going to be really hot. So, we got to be conditioned. We got to be mentally ready to go out there like we did in Fort Worth, and kick some butt. And getting on to special teams, man. Let's talk about special teams. I was saying yesterday, man, they make me want to pick up those Newports. Cannot allow that to happen, throughout the season, man. It would be great to win one of these games because of our special teams unit. This was one of the phases. This was the phase that, like, I was so excited to see, because usually special teams, I don't care about this and that, but with the guys that we brought in, kicking, punting, returning, I was really excited to see this unit. And we really haven't had any big plays, coming from special teams yet. This would be a great opportunity for that. And you hit on a little bit, man, with the turnovers. This defense forces a ton of turnovers, and ASU turns the ball over like crazy. They got like 13 or 14 turnovers and only one takeaway so far this year. Man, I'm hoping for a field day. But speaking of the guys that you were mentioning, like Shiloh, like Miles Slusher, again, I'm just here in my apartment, so I don't have any inside info on these injuries. But with how Rod Ward played last week, man, I'm fine kind of giving Shiloh, an extra week with that kidney injury, if he needs to take some time. But I guess we didn't talk about Shiloh at all, or Roderick Ward at all. But what do you think of his game against USC?
I actually loved it. I mean, he's a fiery competitor, man. And I believe he led us in tackles. I believe he had 9 tackles in USC. So he led us in tackles, for it to be his first start, and definitely coming from, I believe he played at Southern Utah. So I really like Roger Ward, man. I really feel like you said, not having Shiloh on the field, having a guy like Roger Ward that you can still bring in. I mean, I really love the way he plays. I really love how smart he is. I really love how physical he is. I mean, the size doesn't matter with that kid. That kid plays way above his size, man. And I really like Roger Ward, man. I love how he was on tape at Southern Utah. And I feel like he's one of those guys that he can get his hand on the football, because, I mean, he had like 5 interceptions last season at Southern Utah. And like you said, with Arizona State turning the football over, I mean, our safeties are picking the ball off left and right. Well, Shiloh has 1. You're looking at Cam with 3. Trevor Woods has 2. So, I mean, we got a lot of interceptions in our safeties group right now. So, I mean, this may be a week where Roger Ward actually get his hands on one. And, I mean, he's dynamic once he gets the ball in his hands for sure. So, I think it's going to be a great week for Roger Ward.
Man, yes. I think it's going to be a great week for the secondary. They're there are a couple players, on this Arizona State team that we really need to key in on in order to, to squash any belief that they might have. That's their wide receiver, Elijah Badger, who's really talented, as well as, their do-it-all player on offense, Cameron Scadaboo, who, he's a really fun player to watch. He's one of my favorite players right now in college football. With stopping these running backs and stuff like that, do you think that we might even just who would you want covering Scadaboo? I guess that's my question for you. How do we stop this man?
Gotcha. No, he's unbelievable, right? He's really, really good talent. I mean, he's a high level player. I feel like honestly, I would say Omarion Cooper based on the experience, right? And based on what we have right now. But I'm not afraid really to put Cormani because what Cormani did against Brendan Rice. I mean, you look at that matchup. I mean, Brendan Rice is a pro, right? I mean, Brendan Rice is one of the best wide receivers in college football right now. He scored in every game so far that USC played in. And Cormani was, right there with him step for step. He was right there with him, press man coverage, making plays. I mean, I wouldn't at this point. Cormani is really, really growing. He's really maturing. And he's one of those type of players where the more he gets confident, the better he plays. So
yes.
I'm looking right now. I want somebody that's long and physical that can run with that type of guy. And I'm definitely cool with Cormani for sure.
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, this is a great opportunity for him to have kind of that next game, like continue to put out that consistency. Because man, yeah, like I think he had one completion against him last week, and then Caleb Williams just did not have success against him, and then just was going away from him.
Yeah.
And some people are giving Amari Cooper a hard time, man, because I felt overall, there were a couple routes in which that he got beat on, which that happens sometimes with USC guys, but what's his name? Williams. He was Caleb Williams, he was completing, man, some pinpoint passes, man, that I feel like even though he had good coverage, man, it just got, he just got beat. That happens. But I think having Cormani, face this challenge this week, I love that idea of putting Cormani, on their best players. And by the time Travis gets back, man, you got those two covering the outside, and you got all sorts of different options when they're running 3 or 4 wide sets, like you said, with Slusher, with Cameron Silman, Craig, who's going to be hard to get off the field right now. Cooper playing inside. Travis
Robinson.
J. Yeah. Jaquez. Yes, this secondary is freaking loaded. And I love it, man. In terms of the offense, man, what are you hoping to see? How do you see this game going for the Buffs in terms of their strategy and what they're going to try to do?
Of course, we're going to throw the football, right? I mean, that we're going to do what we do best. We're going to put the ball in the air, right? Of course, Shedeur is going to throw it. He's going to drop back. We'll throw it 40 times for sure. I'm hoping this is another game, though, like I kind of, mentioned earlier, that we can really dominate in the run, right? I feel like this is a game here where we may get our first 100-yard rusher, right? We haven't had one of those yet. Of course, it's been a combined effort, right?
Yeah.
Kind of spreading out the carries here, but with Anthony Hankerson had over 70 yards rushing. I'm really loving how tough that young man is running the football, and I'm strongly feeling like we could possibly get a little bit more out of Alton McCaskill. I think he only had like 1 carry for about 5 yards. Hopefully, this is a game where we can see a little bit more of Alton McCaskill as well. I feel like we'll be dominant. We're going to score points. We're going to definitely score points this week. I feel like Xavier Weaver is going to have a bounce back week because I know last week against USC wasn't really his best for what we've seen. So I feel like we'll get a bounce back week from Xavier Weaver, and we could see another week like kind of how we got week 1 against TCU where our receivers just went crazy and we just, Shedeur spreading the football all around. So I expect the offense to put up a lot of points and us to be dominant on the ground.
No doubt. I want to see us continue to build on this momentum that we gained last week running the football. That was so great to see. And man, who was telling me this? Was it Rob the Man? Somebody else that I was talking to this week. Jack Bailey, our smallest offensive lineman right now, was the highest graded offensive lineman against USC this past week. And, hats off to him and, the offensive line for helping get that run game going. I would love to see McCaskill, eased in a little bit more this week. I think, some people I've heard, they would like to see, 10 to 15 snaps.
Yeah.
That would be great. Even if we're just getting this man like 5, 6, 7 touches or so, we're going to need him, man, when we're going up against these more stout defenses later on in the year. Oregon State, Utah,
Yep.
we're going to need him, firing on all cylinders. And yeah, it would be really important. And this is a great opportunity to establish this. Another thing that I'm looking for, man, is, this kind of reminds me of going into the Colorado State matchup a little bit because, we kick Nebraska's butt.
Yeah.
We're feeling ourselves a little bit. We feel confident, like, hey, this team is clicking, yada, yada, yada. Who knows exactly what happened because I'm not on the team, but, we come out slow, sluggish for that first half. We allow this team that we should have handled, from the get-go to have some belief, and then it becomes a game,
Yep.
and especially on the road. That's something that I don't want, the Buffs to have to deal with again, man. I want to see them come out, play with a sense of urgency in that first quarter, and really, truly, like you said, handle business for an entire 60-minute game. Because if we can do that, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to win the rest of the games on our schedule. But we just have not played consistent football for a full game yet. And in order for that to happen, we have to see that start clicking.
Right. And I'm right there with you, man. You had a key point as far as starting fast. We gotta start fast. We keep getting down early and trying to make comebacks. I mean, when you go up against some of these top level teams, these top level programs, you got to jump out on them quick. We got to get the offense rolling because once it gets rolling, as you see, when we get rolling, it's hard to stop.
Yes.
It's really hard to stop. I mean, we got athletes all over the place, and we got an NFL quarterback that can get the ball to them. So we just gotta get this train rolling a lot earlier. I'm hoping. I know sy'veon Washington went down in the USC game. Our right tackle, our big right tackle, he went down in that game. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. I don't think he's going to be there. It's going to be next man up mentality regardless. We do have offensive linemen that we have bigger body offensive linemen that haven't played yet. So maybe this is the opportunity to get another offensive lineman on the field and see what they have. But the main thing is we got to start fast. If we start fast and we play the game that we definitely can play, I mean, this game should not be close. And it's not a knock to Arizona State. They have a great coach, right? And I know Coach Prime was talking about that in a relationship that he has with him. They have a great coach. They have a fiery leader who's going to have them ready and prepared for this matchup for sure. But at the end of the day, we have more talent than they have. And we just should, really get the ball rolling.
Yeah. This is where we should handle business. Yeah. It was cool to see Kenny Dillingham talk, so highly of Coach Prime. Yeah, because there was a chance, that he was gonna, come onto this staff, if he wasn't offered that job, which is, interesting because he was the offensive coordinator there at University of Oregon. So that's pretty interesting, man, that we had a possibility to just poach somebody from a program like that to come out here. Shows the just how big of a draw and how attractive working for Coach Prime really is. But yeah, it's a bummer that we're not going to see Rashada, man, because I was really looking forward to seeing how he would play. But yeah, they're on their third string quarterback right now. Threw for like over 300 yards last week, so we cannot take this man lightly. But again, we have to come out and play with urgency. We cannot take this game for granted. We got to win this game if we're going to accomplish what I think a lot of us hope this team accomplishes at the end of the season.
Absolutely. No, this is a big one. These are the games that you're supposed to win, especially with a schedule like we have, the tough schedule that we have. You have to win the gimmies. And not saying a gimme, not trying to disrespect Arizona State, but the games that you're favored in that you're supposed to win, you got to win them, right? It doesn't matter at home or on the road, especially if we're trying to look to get back into that top 25 ranking. These are the games where they're going to want to see us be dominant. Actually, if you're a top 25 team, you go on the road against Arizona State and you beat them by multiple scores. And I feel like that's something that we could do. And if we put it all together, there's no way that Arizona State beats us.
No doubt. And man, I'm looking forward to this game specifically because, man, it's it starts at a half decent time for us here in the Mountain Time Zone. No no 8:30 p.m. starts, no 10 a.m. starts. We get a game at like 3:30, something like that.
Yep.
What if there are a few players, man, that we should keep our eyes on, or that you're hoping has standout performances this week? Who are some of those players?
Absolutely. Of course, we're gonna start with Kamani McLean for sure. I feel like this is another breakout performance type of deal with him, without question. I'm loving Anthony Hankerson right now. What he did last week was very impressive, and I feel like I said, that's nothing but a confidence booster. Same with Mikey Harrison. I feel like he stays hot. I feel like he continues to do what he needs to do. This could be a breakout game for Javon Antonio, depending on how they mix him in at tight end. That's going to be a completely different look that we don't have on tape. There's no film of him at tight end. So, I mean, that could be something special for him. Like I said, Xavier Weaver, I feel like he has a bounce back week this week as well. I feel like we're great defensively as far as in the secondary, that our secondary is going to make plays. We did have some tackles for loss and a couple sacks against USC, so we were getting in the back as well. So I feel like this is a game where our defensive line continues to grow and they show up as well. I just think it's going to be a complete game. I think also, too, with Jace Philly, I feel like this will be a good game for him. Didn't he come from Arizona State? He came, I believe.
Yes, and Juwan Mitchell.
Yeah, they came. So they're both, and they're going back. So they're technically going back. So I feel like this is a game where we could see Jace Philly be the pro that he really is, and actually, step in and really make some great kicks for sure. So I'm excited to see the Buffaloes roll in this Arizona State matchup.
Yes. And particularly on my end, I'm glad that you pointed out Anthony Hankerson, man. He hasn't been a guy that we've talked a lot about on this channel, and he had a great game. He had a great game, and it would be awesome, to see one of our backs, become that first 100-yard rusher on the year. I think, man, my hope, again, is that, we can have a pretty even split when it comes to run-to-pass ratio. Talking with QB Spotlight this morning, Shador's production, some of his best chunk plays too, they've all come off of play action. When we have that running game going, that's when Shador's at his best, and he'll be kept upright more as long as we continue to establish this run game. Speaking of our defense, though, Arizona State, they're going to come in there, run the ball. Again, their most dynamic player right now is Cameron Scadaboo, and it's going to be a good challenge for us to put together a complete game with our run defense. I feel like we did a pretty good job against USC, against their back Lattimore. No, Lloyd, Marshawn Lloyd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except, man, again, these slow starts in the first half, in the first quarter, he had that big, like 30-yard Barry Sanders type run. And, again, like, I think we're getting a little bit better at defending the read option compared to our first few weeks. But now, again, it's about putting all this together. Can we, play disciplined football, stay in our gaps, not get fooled on some of this trickery, that Arizona State will definitely try and pull. This is going to be a great test with our front seven to show improvement and to hopefully, shut down the heartbeat of their offense and Cameron Scadaboo.
Absolutely. I feel like you hit on it, especially on the discipline piece, because as you watch football, teams that are technically the underdogs that don't have a chance to really win a game, they're going to pull out some tricks. They're going to pull out a bag of tricks here and there, and we can expect some type of trickery on offense. You may get a fake punt. You may get an onside kick, right? They may have to steal a possession some way, somehow, because they know at the end of the day, like, CU, we technically have the better team. We have the most dynamic quarterback. We have the better offense. We have the better skill position players. I mean, our DBs are better. We have the overall better team, right? So Arizona State is going to come out, and they may show some things, show some looks that we haven't seen before. And as long as we're disciplined on defense and we tackle, we're going to be fine. Just keep everything in front, tackle, and offense, just do what you do best, and we're going to be all right.
Yeah, no doubt. And with in terms of discipline, too, the other thing that you got me thinking about is just the penalties. We had 12 penalties against Oregon State or Oregon, and we brought that down. I think we cut it in half last week against USC. It would be great to see us, have, zero or just minimal penalties and no personal fouls, anything like that. For those first few weeks, we were getting baited into a lot of personal fouls, a lot of chippy calls, stuff like that. I could see, granted, I don't think Kenny Dillingham is exactly coaching his team the way Jay Norvell is over at Colorado State. But I could see, Arizona State trying to come in here, or, not coming in here because it's on the road, but, getting in our heads, getting us to do some stupid stuff to allow them to stay in the game. We can't have any of those stupid mistakes, losing our cool, especially on the road.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely can. Because at the end of the day, we don't want this. We don't want to make it somewhat close. Because you make it somewhat close with a team that's really not supposed to be in the same ballpark as you, and they're at home, the crowd gets into it. They start to feed off of that. Then that's when crazy stuff starting to happen. And then, so I mean, this, like you said, this is a game where we definitely need to be disciplined. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot, right? We need to make this a game where we really put it all together and we just be dominant and we actually dominate a team that we supposed to, and we can win a ball game, maybe 41-14.
Yes, no doubt, no doubt. And I want to hit on this. Some people are asking in the chat, what's the news with Tyler Brown? Here's the news with Tyler Brown. Nothing yet, but Tez Walker, another one of these popular eligibility cases. NCAA kind of walked back on their first ruling about a month ago, and they're now allowing him to play. So we got to keep the pressure on. We got to be tweeting the NCAA. We got to be getting it out there. We got to be talking about this because if Tez Walker, man, if he can go and play for North Carolina, when your coach dies on the practice field, you should probably get a waiver to transfer. Regardless of when it happened. This needs to get changed, and we got to put pressure on the NCAA, just like North Carolina put on them with their initial decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really goes a long way, right? The support that you'll have if we really put our foot on the gas pedal and say, hey, there's another situation out here, NCAA. You just resolved one, but there's another one out here that needs to be resolved, and it's in Boulder, Colorado. I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of it. So, like you said, the situation with Tez, I'm glad he was able to get his eligibility back. I'm glad he's able to play because you want everybody to be able to play, especially going through something like that. But Tyler Brown really went through something that was traumatic that a lot of players probably never will go through, right? So that he needs to get his eligibility back, and what an uplift that'll be for that offensive line if we can get him back.
Oh man, it would just be huge. It would just be huge. Well, thank you again, Bird, for your time. Always love chatting with you every week. For my viewers that have not subscribed to your channel, one, y'all need to do it. Links in the description of my video. But share a little bit about what you've got going on with your channel, where to find you, and what you got planned in the future right now for your channel.
Absolutely. I appreciate you always for having me on. Same thing with my subscribers. If you're not subscribed to David Talks Buffs, make sure you do so immediately. You can find me on YouTube, of course, at BurdsEyeView. You can find me on Instagram at BurdsEyeView5. You can find me on Twitter at BaseballDriven_. Of course, I'll continue to cover this Colorado football program. Of course, the players that are currently on the roster and the possible recruits that could be coming in, along with the recruits that have already committed. We can continue to do stuff like this here. I love coming on live as we with David, talking weekly about the recaps and what we can expect in the upcoming matchup. So just definitely tune in to both our channels. We can continue to bring you guys, this daily banging content.
No doubt. Well, thank you again, Bird. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to talk. Hopefully after a Buffs victory this next weekend. And keep grinding, man. Love to see the success on your channel. And everybody that was tuning in, whether it's from Bird's channel or mine, thank you so much. Be sure to hit that like on the way out. And if you're watching the replay, let us know where you're watching from. That's always really cool to see as well. Appreciate you as always. And go Buffs.
Go Buffs.